what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Endzone Report. I am your host, Chris Opitz, here with you once again to tackle the NFL. On today's episode, I'll be breaking down every AFC division, giving my predictions and how everything has been going through preseason and training camp. I'll also be giving my top 10 quarterbacks and tight end rankings for all of you fantasy nuts out there. But on top of that, we'll be going over a bunch of news, contract extensions, injuries, signings. There's a lot to cover since I have been a while since I've been behind the mic. A couple reminders at the top of the episode, though. You can watch the show every week at youtube.com/The Endzone Report. You can also listen to the audio version on Spotify. You can also follow the show on X, Facebook, and Instagram. I post a lot of artwork from each episode, and then also some news and everything to go along with that. So let's head over to see what's up with the NFL, with the news. There has been a lot of breaking news in the NFL since I was last behind the mic. Actually, some breaking news right before I started recording. The big news was that Amari Cooper has now signed with his former team, the Las Vegas Raiders. And now that is forcing Jacoby Myers, who is the current wide receiver one for the Raiders, to request a trade. I really thought Minnesota was going to start going after Amari Cooper after all the injuries that they have been dealing with, and then the suspension of Jordan Addison. But nope, it looks like the Raiders were the ones to pick up Amari Cooper. The biggest rumors for the Vikings right now is that they are currently trying to get Adam Thielen back from the Carolina Panthers. If Jacoby Myers does indeed get a trade, I mean, Pittsburgh Steelers are probably going to be at the top of the list. Maybe Minnesota throws a flyer on getting Myers if they can't pull off the Thielen trade. Maybe he starts looking at rivalries and heads over to Denver. They could always use some more weapons around their rookie sensation Bo Nix. Maybe he goes back to New England with Vrabel. There's a lot of different places that could use a wide receiver with the talent of Jacoby Myers, but I think that Amari Cooper signing is very surprising with that Pete Carroll-led offense. Geno Smith coming in at quarterback. I'm going to be talking about more about the Raiders during the breakdown, of course, but it's very, very surprising that Amari Cooper went to the Raiders. I know the previous rumors around Amari Cooper was that he would be going back to Dallas, but with the George Pickens signings, that seemed to be very, very unlikely after that. So Amari Cooper is back home with the Raiders. We'll see what kind of involvement that he has around that offense. Some other news, Jalen Polk, the wide receiver for the New England Patriots, is now out for the season with a shoulder injury that will require season-ending surgery. So he is out. Stephon Diggs seems to be leading the pack of wide receivers, along with Demario Douglas. I'll be talking quite a bit about the Patriots in the breakdown today as well. Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers, has been suspended for 3 games after violating the league's substance abuse policy. So he'll join Jordan Addison being suspended for the first few games. No word yet on the Rashee Rice situation. That September 30th date is still set for a court hearing. So he, as of right now, he will be playing for the first 4 weeks. So we will keep you updated on the Rashee Rice situation. Tyson Bagent, backup quarterback for the Chicago Bears, has signed a 2-year extension for $10 million. So they have solidified that backup for Caleb Williams. Devon Vele of the previously Denver Broncos has been traded to the Saints for a very egregious amount of incentives. I think they sent, what was it, a 5th and a 2nd, or and a 7th, or a 4th and a 7th, something along those lines. It was a really egregious trade offer, but hey, Denver will gladly take that back in return for Vele. Darren Waller has been activated off of the PUP. He is now returning to the NFL with the Miami Dolphins, so we will see what his involvement is with that offense. Daniel Jones of the Indianapolis Colts and Joe Flacco of the Cleveland Browns have both been named starters for Week 1. For those fantasy lunatics out there, that is some really good news that we have a solidified starter for those teams because they do have some fantasy assets on there. Still, I would only draft David Njoku for the Browns. Judkins did escape charges on that domestic violence, but technically the league can still suspend him if they feel like they should. So really, David Njoku and maybe Jerry Jeudy, if I was feeling so inclined at the right spot in drafts, maybe that is somebody you want to take a shot on. He was productive last time when Joe Flacco was with the Browns. Daniel Jones is good for the Tyler Warren lovers out there, such as myself. I think it's good for Jonathan Taylor with his fantasy value, and then all the wide receivers. I think it's very likely that Anthony Richardson probably won't be on the Colts next year. I could see them getting away with sending him off within a trade in the offseason. I think is very, very likely. Daniel Jones probably is not the future of the Colts, but I don't think Anthony Richardson is either. So they might be looking at the 2026 quarterback draft class for sure. We finally got an answer to the Terry McLaurin saga. He signed an extension with the Washington Commanders, 3 years, $96 million. So now that has been closed up, and the Commanders can move on with their lives. Also today, we got word that Trey Hendrickson of the Cincinnati Bengals has finally gotten his extension. That is 1 year with $14 million to help out that terrible, terrible defense. I'll be talking about the Bengals quite a bit in today's breakdown. And a big surprise, Brian Robinson Jr., formerly of the Washington Commanders, has been traded to the San Francisco 49ers to back up Christian McCaffrey. If you have not been aware of all the craziness with the 49ers, every single running back, aside from Christian McCaffrey, has been injured in some capacity. So they really needed to pull off some kind of trade for some backups. So they did get their hands on Brian Robinson. If you are not also aware of the headlines surrounding the Commanders' running back room, one fellow rookie, Krosky Merritt, has been making headlines, a.k.a. known as Billy, as some call him. It seems like he might be the next man up behind Austin Eckler. So those Austin Eckler believers, looks like he gets a bump up in those fantasy drafts as well. Then the last bit of news that I have kind of hits home here. Carson Wentz has signed with the Minnesota Vikings after Minnesota traded Sam Howell to the Philadelphia Eagles. So a little bit of backstory with that. From Fargo, North Dakota, hometown of the North Dakota State Bison. Carson Wentz was the leader of that team, winning multiple championships. He then went on to sign with the Eagles, made his way to the Commanders and the Redskins. He made the Colts in there. Now he has come home to the Minnesota Vikings, which a lot of Vikings fans who are also Bison fans have been wanting ever since he was drafted into the NFL. I don't know if you've seen some of my posts, but I basically quoted, "The prophecy has been fulfilled. Carson Wentz has come home. He is now a Minnesota Viking." So bravo to all those NDSU Bison fans out there. That wraps up all the news that I have for you right now. Let's head over to Fantasy Corner for my top 10 quarterbacks and my top 10 tight ends. All right, so before we get into today's division breakdown, I'm going to go over my top 10 quarterbacks and my top 10 tight ends. First up, we have the quarterbacks. At number 10, I'm going to go with Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers. I think Herbert is a very underrated quarterback right now. You can get him super late in drafts, and you can easily stack him with Ladd McConkey and some other the weapons out there. Amari Hampton, if you're inclined to stack running backs and quarterbacks. Trey Harris is a rookie that has been getting a lot of buzz. Keenan Allen is now back with the team, who you can also get later in drafts to stack with Herbert. So I think Justin Herbert and the Chargers are going to be surprising this year with Harbaugh back as the head coach. They've beefed up the offense a little bit more. Defense has been pretty solid throughout the years. So yeah, I really like Justin Herbert this year, so he's got to be in my top 10 for sure. Coming in at number 9 is Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. Another one that I know a lot of people think is overrated. I actually think he's very underrated now that he has George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb as weapons. I know that defense is going to be pretty bad. We'll see what happens with Micah Parsons if he does leave Dallas or if he stays there and gets an extension done. Either way, that defense is going to be pretty bad, and it's going to force the offense to put up, 35 plus points, very similar to the Cincinnati Bengals offense. So I think Dak is going to have another great year. When he's healthy, he has had MVP caliber years. It's just unfortunate that every so often he's been getting season-ending injuries that has really plummeted his ranking and his value in drafts. So definitely got to draft Dak Prescott. He's another one where you can easily get that stack with CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens, and you can wait later on to get Dak for sure. Number 8, I got Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes just finds ways to become relevant in the NFL. He's still got some talent in him. I know some people are getting kind of burnt out on Mahomes. He hasn't really produced the last couple years with fantasy. We'll see what happens with that Rashee Rice situation. It's possible that he could be missing 6 games this year. Maybe they push it to next year. I think either way, Mahomes is going to be pretty solid this year. He's got Travis Kelce back. Xavier Worthy showed some really good promise last year as a rookie. So I think there's plenty of opportunities for Patrick Mahomes to kind of get back to where he was as a top 5 quarterback for sure. Number 7, I got Baker Mayfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mayfield is just really, really awesome. I know there's been some injuries they're dealing with Chris Godwin, but he has Emeka Egbuka, the really good rookie that's coming in. Mike Evans still produces every year, still keeping that streak alive with 1,000 yards each year. Bucky Irving has been a really good weapon in the backfield for him. So I think Baker is going to be pretty solid. He's another one that could maybe slip into top 5. I don't know if he could be the number 1. He does have some rushing, but with the injuries that the Buccaneers are kind of dealing with, and I know the offensive line isn't the greatest down there in Tampa, but I think Baker's got enough juice in him to be a very, very relevant and very awesome fantasy weapon for you. So. Number 6, I got my boy Bo Nix. Very exciting season last year with Sean Payton. He now has Courtland Sutton back on an extension. He has R.J. Harvey in the backfield. They really beefed up that offensive line to protect him. The defense is really, really solid. So Denver, I'm going to talk about a lot, not just because they're my team, but because there's just a lot to be excited about. And one of them at the very center of it is Bo Nix coming into his sophomore season to not only repeat what he did last year, but just elevate himself as an NFL player. It's super exciting. So he is number 6 on the board for me. Number 5 is Jaden Daniels, the rookie sensation from the Washington Commanders last year. They finally knocked down Terry McLaurin with the extension today. They got Deebo Samuel in the offseason, so that he's got another weapon at his disposal. They got rid of Brian Robinson, but they did bring in some awesome rookie help in the backfield. He still has Austin Eckler there. So we'll see what that backfield looks like as the season progresses. But I think Jaden Daniels is going to be a very, very solid wide fantasy asset at quarterback. He's got that rushing upside. He's got a really good arm. We've seen that last year. I know Terry McLaurin's probably going to regress a little bit with all the touchdowns that he got, but that just leaves room for Deebo Samuel to kind of help push that offense and maybe even get to the Super Bowl. We'll see. Number 4 is where I got Jalen Hurts. A large part of this is the tush push. He's going to be that easy rushing touchdown for you. But he also has a really good arm. He's got Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown to throw to. They're both dealing with some injuries, unfortunately. But he has Saquon Barkley to dump the ball off to. But really, Jalen Hurts is at number 4 because of that tush push. And as long as the tush push has not been banned, he will be a really, really cool fantasy asset on your team. And you can get him fairly at a reasonable price. You know, he's going anywhere from the very, very late third into the fourth and into the fifth. So you're not paying too high of a price for a guy that could easily be the number 1 quarterback for sure. Number 3, got my boy Joe Burrow here. Very similar to the Dak Prescott. That defense is like one of the worst in the league, so they're going to have to make 35 to 40 points every game just to stay relevant. They locked up T. Higgins. They have Jamar Chase locked up as well. They got Chase Brown in the backfield. They got Gesicki and Noah Fant at tight end to help out Joe Burrow with some targets. So Joe Burrow's I think he's gonna have a really outstanding year and have a potential MVP year for sure. So Joe Burrow at number 3. Number 2 is Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. Kind of similar to Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts. He has that huge rushing upside. He's got a really good arm. The way he moves around on the field is just incredible to watch. He has Derrick Henry to help him out. Zay Flowers has proven to be a reliable target. Unfortunately, Isaiah Likely has that foot injury he's dealing with, but Mark Andrews is still there to help him out at tight end. So we'll see how the weapons shape out for Lamar. But with him and Derrick Henry, they're a very potent offense still. So Lamar is at number 2. And then number 1, and I think it's been the consensus number 1 for everybody. That's Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. He is the number 1 quarterback for me in my ranking. But the tough thing with Josh Allen and Lamar in these fantasy drafts is you got to basically burn a second-round pick. That's why I'm more inclined to take, the Joe Burrows, the Jalen Hurts. Jaden Daniels, you can kind of get away with. You can maybe squeak him out of the 3rd round. There's some drafts where people just are very excited for what they saw last year, and so you're burning a second-round pick. But I'm more inclined to stay away from the Josh Allens and Lamars of the world. There are a couple leagues where I do have them just to have them and to see how that team build goes throughout the draft by burning a second-round pick with Josh Allen or Lamar. But it's very, very high price for Josh Allen. But, I mean, he could easily be the number 1 quarterback again. He has some decent weapons with Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir. He's got Dalton Kincaid at tight end. James Cook got an extension, so he could easily just dump off the ball to him. The defense is pretty solid, so there'll be some blowout games where the defense just holds him back. But Josh Allen is just Superman. He's got a great arm. He's got that rushing upside. So he is the number 1 quarterback for me. So those are my top 10. I'll post those on social media, as well as the top 10 tight ends, which I'll get into right now. And number 10, I've got Evan Ingram, who is now Denver Broncos' number 1 tight end, coming from Jacksonville Jaguars. I think John Payton's going to use him a lot. Bo Nix literally can't throw everything to Courtland Sutton. I know they signed Pat Bryant in the NFL draft this year. They got Marvin Mims, who has been really stellar at camp. But I think Evan Ingram is going to be Sean Payton's joker or gadget guy. So Evan Ingram's got to be in my top 10 for just the potential upside and all the great plays that he'll be a part of, all the targets that he's probably going to get dumped off to him. Number 9, I've got David Njoku. This is solely because Joe Flacco is the quarterback. If they would have named anybody else at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, he would not be in my top 10. But he is such a really good talent. It's just is unfortunate that he is stuck with an organization that just can't get their quarterback figured out. The best quarterback they've had in recent years is probably Baker Mayfield, and they just kind of did him dirty. They didn't realize what they had in Baker until he showed the world what he could do when he played that one game with the Rams. And now he's just lighting the league on fire with the Bucks. So David Njoku is number 9, because you can get him very, very late in drafts. He's going in the double-digit rounds. So if you want to just stack up on running backs and wide receivers at the beginning of the rounds, and then you can just kind of wait on tight end and get David Njoku super late, is really good value here. Number 8 is Sam Laporta of the Detroit Lions. I think Dan Campbell's going to want to use Laporta a lot. They do have Jameson Williams there. They got St. Brown. They have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery to dump it off to. But I think Sam Laporta is going to get back into being more involved. He kind of was eliminated in some games last year, but he's a really good safety net for Goff when he gets in trouble. So Sam Laporta has got some really good upside, and you can get him at a decent price too in drafts. So number 7 is TJ Hawkinson. Now, this is before all the injuries and the Jordan Addison suspension, so I might be moving him up a little bit, probably to 5 or 6. I'll have to kind of go through some tinkering with this list, but for right now, he's still at my number 7. He's going to be a huge help for J.J. McCarthy, who has not played a single regular season game yet in the NFL. They bruised up that offensive line for the Minnesota Vikings. They've got Justin Jefferson, who's kind of still dealing with that hamstring, but he should be fine for week 1. Jordan Addison will be missing the first 3 games. Jalen Naylor got injured. The rookie Felton is injured. So really there's no one else to really throw to aside from Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, and Jefferson. So I think TJ Hawkinson is just going to get peppered with targets because there's literally nobody else for McCarthy to go. And a lot of times with these rookie tight ends, the tight end is just the rookie quarterbacks. Is the tight ends are really important as a safety net for them. I know J.J. McCarthy's technically not a rookie, but going into this season, a lot of people, including myself, are looking at him as a rookie because, like I said, he's never played a single regular season game in the NFL. So TJ Hawkinson is going to be a very, very essential part of this Vikings offense, which is why I'm really considering maybe moving him up to 5 and 6 over my next 2 names here. But I'll hold off on that and kind of see how this next week or so shakes out. At number 6, I've got Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. With the Isaiah Likely injury, I moved him up. Isaiah Likely was like the one tight end I was targeting super late in drafts because I think he's going to take over that spot in the middle of the year. I still think that, but it's just going to take a little bit longer because of that foot injury. So that's why I moved up Mark Andrews. He is going to be a very important weapon for Lamar. I think he's a little banged up now still, but I think he'll be fine for week 1, and he'll be getting peppered with targets from Lamar. Number 5, I got Travis Kelce. I got him high up because of the Rashee Rice situation. I do think Rashee Rice is going to be missing some games due to suspension this year. And so that basically leaves Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy as targets for Mahomes. They got rid of Sky Moore. He is out the door. I believe he went to the Niners. And Travis Kelce has stated, he's been in the best shape of his life. He's been getting a little bit thinner, more fit. So I think Travis Kelce is going to be a very, very important weapon for Mahomes. So that's why I got him at number 5 because of that Rashee Rice situation. At number 4, I have a rookie, which is very surprising. Is Tyler Warren of the Indianapolis Colts. The stuff that I saw from him in preseason blew my mind. He is going to be the best friend to Daniel Jones, I think. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, they'll still be sprinkled in there every now and then. But I think Tyler Warren will be the number 1 target for Daniel Jones, at least in these beginning weeks that Daniel Jones starts. I really like Tyler Warren. I think he's going to be the face of that organization. And I just really, really excited about it. I think we're going to have a really awesome tight end rookie class this year with Colston Loveland, Mason Taylor, Arroyo over in Seattle. It's going to be a really, really fun tight end group. Number 3 is George Kittle. And this is just because there's nobody else to throw to, just like the Minnesota Vikings. With all the wide receivers getting injured, with all the running backs getting injured, Brock Purdy has Ricky Pearsall, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle to throw to. Now, Juwan Jennings might be ready to go by week 1, but he's still really banged up with the calf injury. Demarcus Robinson got suspended. Cowing is injured. They do have Sky Moore there, but Sky Moore isn't anything to be worried about. So George Kittle is going to be the dude for Brock Purdy other than Christian McCaffrey. So George Kittle has to be, he's potentially going to be the number one tight end this year. If Trey McBride and Brock Bowers weren't a thing, George Kittle would be my number one tight end. But after seeing what McBride and Bowers did, it's just really, really hard to put anybody over those two. So speaking of which, number 2 is where I got Trey McBride. He was the star target for Kyler last year. Maybe Marvin Harrison gets mixed in a little bit more, but Trey McBride has pretty much solidified himself as like the leader of the group next to James Conner, who is kind of on his last leg. He's getting into his 30s, so he'll be aging out here. Trey McBride still very, very young. He will be the face of this organization next to Marvin Harrison. So number 2 for sure. Then number 1, Brock Bowers. I mean, you can just look at every game last year. He is the face of this organization. Now, I know Ashton Genty's coming in. Amari Cooper's coming back. They still have Jacoby Myers for now. But Brock Bowers will be like a big target for Geno Smith there in Las Vegas. So there's not much more to say about those top 2. They're just kind of stamped there at my rankings. You have to basically burn an early second-round pick for these guys, sometimes even a first-rounder. But I think they're mainly going in the second round, so you're basically giving up a really good running back or a wide receiver. But with these guys, as an example, I treat them as a wide receiver, very similar to Isaiah Likely. That's why he would have been in my top 10 if it not were for that foot injury. But these guys I see as wide receivers, so that's why they're 1 and 2 on my tight end ranking list. So just like the quarterbacks, I will be posting this list on all those social media pages for you to check out. You can also check out my top 10 wide receivers and running backs from the NFC division breakdown episode as well. So go ahead and check those out. So let's finally head over to the division warfare with the AFC. So just like the NFC division breakdown, I'm going to go over each of the AFC divisions, starting with the North, then the West, then the South, and then finishing up with the East. I'll go in the order of the division from last season. I'll give the current over-under for that team, and I'll give my prediction on whether they'll hit the over or under on their wins. And then I'll give my my list of who's going to win the division all the way down to who will get last. So let's kick it off with the AFC North. Baltimore Ravens were the winner of this division last year. Their current over-under is 11.5 wins. I'm going to go with the over. I think this is the year that Baltimore makes it to the Super Bowl. Now, I would love my Broncos to make it to the Super Bowl. Maybe they will surprise me. But I think Denver is just 1 year or 2 away from getting into the Super Bowl. I would love to see a Baltimore-Denver AFC championship, which is very possible. But I think this is the year that Lamar gets to the Super Bowl and gets his ring finally. But that is just my prediction right now. We'll see how the season plays out. And kind of midweek, middle of the season, I'll start giving my playoff scenarios and my Super Bowl contenders in there. But right now, I think Baltimore is going to finally reach the Super Bowl with Lamar chasing that ring. So not a whole lot of big transactions during the offseason. I already mentioned it, but Isaiah Likely is still dealing with that foot injury. Possible that he might be missing the first week or two. He is going through some surgery on that foot. Mark Andrews, I think, is a little banged up, but he is still going to go. Derrick Henry is still there. Lamar is still there. Harbaugh is still leading the charge of this team. Zay Flowers is there. They have Rashad Bateman there. They did kick Deontay Johnson out of the way. But I think this team is really solid. They still got a really good defense. Probably top 5 defense still in the league. So I'm super excited to see Lamar finally get a ring, hopefully this year. Next up was the Pittsburgh Steelers. For some reason, Tomlin just keeps getting that winning season, even though that they make it to the playoffs and lose that first week. But they had quite a bit of transactions going through this division. They brought in Aaron Rodgers to be quarterback, coming from the New York Jets. Then they also signed DK Metcalf to a really stellar deal. But they needed that wide receiver help. And then they kicked George Kickens to the curb and sent him packing to Dallas. They are still chasing that wide receiver 2 for Aaron Rodgers. I believe Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin are next up on the list. They did sign Jonnu Smith, so he'll probably be a weapon of choice with Arthur Smith still there as OC. But they still have Tomlin. I actually have the Steelers going under. Their line right now is 8.5 wins. I think this is going to be the under. I think this is the year that Tomlin's streak ends and he gets a losing season and then he starts considering retirement. So I don't think Aaron Rodgers is the savior. I love DK Metcalf, but I don't think he's going to be the savior either. He's going to be a really good fantasy player, though. I've been taking him everywhere that I can get him. George Pickens really hurts this team after getting kicked out. I think if I remember the story right, he wanted out as soon as they started DK Metcalf. I wish he would have stayed. It would have been a really good weapon for Aaron Rodgers. He was really successful in the Jets, surprise, surprise, with Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams there. So them not having that solidified wide receiver 2 is going to hold them back. You know, the defense is still good, but TJ Watt's getting older, and Aaron Rodgers definitely got old. So we'll see if he has any juice left in the tank. But I don't think he's going to be the saving grace for this team. I think they're finally going to get that losing season, and they're going to consider I think Tomlin's going to consider possibly retiring after this year. I think it's just going to be really, really bad for the Steelers. Coming in next was the Cincinnati Bengals. They signed an extension for Jamar Chase. They signed T. Higgins to an extension. They finally got that Trey Hendrickson extension done. They kicked Zach Moss to the curb, so they got Chase Brown and Samaje Perine there in the backfield. They've got Gesicki. They signed Noah Fant to back him up at tight end as well. Jermaine Burton really hasn't been making any headways. He was the rookie last year, I believe. They still got Yoshivas there that has kind of like the third man at wide receiver. But Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase are going to be stellar this year. They are very valuable. I just lost my train of thought. Fantasy assets, excuse me. That Burrow Chase or Burrow Higgins stack, I think, is going to be the fantasy dominator this year. So that is a stack that I've been trying to get my hands on in many drafts as I possibly can. Now, granted, I can't get it in every league, just because that's how it is. But they're going to be a very potent offense, and they're going to have to be, because that defense is probably one of the worst, if not the worst defense in the league. It is horrendous. I don't think signing Trey Hendrickson to a one-year deal is going to do much. I think he's on the hope that they're going to get to the Super Bowl again and win one before he calls it quits with the team. But yeah, that defense is going to be horrendous. They do have a new coach. I think it's Al Golden is their new defensive coach. So maybe they change things around, but they just don't have those stellar bodies in that defense. They don't have like a Micah Parsons or a TJ Watt. They just have Trey Hendrickson, who is really good, but just not on that Micah Parsons Watt tier. Maybe I would love to see Micah Parsons go to the Bengals, but they can't afford him. They paid Chase all that money. They paid Hendrickson. They keep redoing Burrow's contract to make up for all that, but eventually they're going to have to pay him. And they could barely get that Hendrickson deal done. They had to settle on a $14 million deal for 1 year. But as much as I would love them to sign a really big name, this is what happens when you have such a high caliber offense. You have to pay all those guys, and the defense just really suffers because you just can't pay a stellar stud. They just have to nail the draft, and Cincinnati hasn't been able to nail the draft with defensive players in a long time. So that's really the holding thing. But I do think they're going to go over. Their win is at 9.5 wins, but I think they're going to hit the over. And they're definitely going to be a playoff team this year. I know last year they didn't quite make it. It came down to the wire. But I think this year they're going to make it up and make it to the playoffs. So that is the Bengals for you. Now we have the dreaded Cleveland Browns, what I have just been dreading to do. But we have to cover them because they are an NFL team. Their current win total is 4.5. I'm obviously going on the under. This is going to be a train wreck. I think they're going to be fighting the New York Giants for that number 1 pick next year. Joe Flacco is in. Kenny Pickett is in. Dylan Gabriel and Shadir Sanders got drafted. Somehow Deshaun Watson is still on this roster. So they're still playing with 5 quarterbacks, which is just freaking insane. They drafted Quinshon Judkins, who was dealing with that domestic violence case. Those charges were dropped. But technically the league can still suspend him if they want to. But I think they're going to avoid that, and he's just going to sign that rookie contract and become the number 1 running back for this team. They still got Jerry Jeudy. They got David Njoku there. Cedric Tillman is healthy. So there are weapons for Joe Flacco to be successful. It's just this team is just going to be a hodgepodge of garbage. I'm expecting Joe Flacco to either fall asleep or get injured by week 4, and we're just going to see a carousel of quarterbacks every week. You know, Stefanski is going to just run that carousel quarterback till he gets something that sticks. I know there's a lot of hate around Shadir Sanders. I honestly blame his dad for all that. He does have an ego. But I've seen, his preseason and his training camp videos. I think Shadir can be a really good NFL quarterback if the Cleveland Browns do give him that chance. Dylan Gabriel is fine. I wasn't super hyped up about him at the draft. Seeing his tapes, and he was all right. Kenny Pickett is just not the answer. I think he was better off in Pittsburgh. But, I think Shadir will end up being the starter for the last half of the year just to see what they have in him. I wouldn't be surprised if they kick 1 or 2 of these names off the roster. I mean, they're going to have to. There's only 53 spots, and you don't have 5. I think Deshaun Watson, it's crazy that he is still with this team after everything that has come out about him with the contract, with the allegations against him, with the massage parlors, all that stuff. I know he's dealing with an Achilles right now, and he's still working through that, but it just blows my mind that he is still with Cleveland. They need to just eat the money and cut him right now because he is holding this team back. And he's holding them hostage, to be honest with you. This team is just going to be a huge, ginormous mess. So I'm definitely picking up. I think they're going to maybe squeak out 2 wins, and that's being generous, I think. So looking at my breakdown of how this is going to shake up, for the AFC North, I've got the Baltimore Ravens winning the division once again, followed by the Bengals, then the Steelers, and then, of course, the Browns taking last in this division. So that is my prediction for the AFC North. Moving on to the AFC West, we have the Kansas City Chiefs as the winner of that division last year. Not a whole lot of movement either. They did send Sky Moore off packing. The biggest news is that Rashee Rice, what is going to happen? Is he going to get suspended? Are they going to hold off until next year? The Chiefs are always chasing that Super Bowl. They're always relevant with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes at the helm. Travis Kelce looks in shape. Xavier Worthy is a really exciting young player. I know Rashee Rice is really good. It's just he's done some stupid stuff, and I think he needs to pay for it to kind of shake that ego off of him and kind of get matured a little bit. I'm predicting that he is going to get at least 6 games. I know the league originally tried to do 10, but I think the NFLPA said no, that is egregious. We cannot suspend him 10 games. So I think the league is going to have to settle for at least 6. Maybe they get it up to 8, but it's going to be for sure at least 6 games that he'll get suspended. The biggest question is, will it be in the middle of this season, or will they push it off until next season? So right now, it looks like he will be starting the first 4 weeks. 2 of those games being against the Philadelphia Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens. I know there's been a lot of rumors this offseason about maybe they go get Tyreek Hill back, but it sounds like Tyreek is going to stay in Miami with Tua. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs still kind of get a little proactive with that Rashee Rice situation hanging over them and trying to sign somebody out there. Maybe they go after Jacoby Myers and they get a deal done. This team doesn't like to spend a whole lot of money. Eventually, they're going to have to pay a lot to Patrick Mahomes because he's extremely underpaid right now. If you look at the kind of the breakdown of how the quarterbacks are getting paid, so eventually they're going to have to pay the piper on that one. But I'm going to go with the under on the Chiefs, though. I think 11.5 for them is just kind of a little too rich for me. I'm willing to do that for the Ravens and the Bills, but taking the over on the Chiefs with that Rashee Rice situation is just tough for me. And with the aging Travis Kelce, I'm going to definitely go the under on the Chiefs for that one. Next up was the Los Angeles Chargers. They are currently sitting at 9.5 wins for their over-under. Najee Harris came over from Pittsburgh, but he is now dealing with that eye injury from the 4th of July. Keenan Allen came back, so that's a huge weapon upgrade for Justin Herbert. They drafted Omarion Hampton at running back, which is really, really exciting. He will be the future of that backfield. I'm super excited to see some Hampton action, especially with that Najee Harris injury. I think he'll be very, very heavily involved early on in the season with the injury there. They also drafted wide receiver Trey Harris, who I really like, so I'm super excited to see him kind of get a rapport with Justin Herbert there. Joey Bosa is out the door, and I believe he signed with the Buffalo Bills. So that defense kind of takes a hit there. But I'm going to go with the over on the Chargers. I think they're going to be a very interesting team to watch. And I can easily see them getting double-digit wins, especially with that Keenan Allen signing, who has a great rapport with Justin Herbert already. So very exciting to watch the Chargers, which is interesting coming from a Broncos fan. But I really like Justin Herbert. I think he's very underrated. I think he's going to bounce back this year with Harbaugh. We finally get to my team. The Denver Broncos are up next. Their over-under is currently 9.5. I'm going with the over. I think Bo Nix is going to repeat what he did and even upgrade into an even more higher caliber as far as quarterbacks. They brought in J.K. Dobbins to help out the running back room. They also signed Evan Ingram to kind of tighten up that tight end room. I'm really excited for Evan Ingram. I know he got kind of a bad stink with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but he was really great when he was with the Giants back in the day, and I think he's going to be a huge weapon for Bo Nix to take advantage of. They drafted R.J. Harvey at running back, which really surprised me, considering that Omarion Hampton was sitting there when it was their time on the board, but they went with the Jahdae Barron on the defensive side with that pick, and then they ended up getting R.J. Harvey later on in the draft. I really would have liked them to get Omarion Hampton, but I understand, the Broncos have made a history of really bolstering up that defense. I think they're the number 1 defense in the league right now, followed by the Minnesota Vikings. I know a lot of people still have the Ravens and the Eagles up there, but I think Denver has the best defense in the league right now, very closely followed by Minnesota. So that's very exciting as a Broncos fan. Sean Payton, I've had a love-hate relationship with the guy over the years, but he has really done some great things with Denver. He saw the talent in Bo Nix, and I'm really glad that he stuck with his guns and drafted Bo Nix where he did, because I just absolutely love Nix. I'm not wearing his jersey right now. I'm rocking my John Elway jersey. But but I really believe in Bo Nix, and I think he's going to be a really great player to watch for the next, 7 to 10 plus years in Denver. So super excited for the Denver Broncos this year. I just can't wait. Lastly, in the AFC West, we've got the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm super excited to watch the Raiders actually this year. We got Pete Carroll coming in from Seattle as head coach. He brought in Geno Smith as well to take over at quarterback. They drafted the superstar sensation Ashton Genty at running back. They still have Brock Bowers there. They brought in Amari Cooper, as I stated early on in the episode, to help out the wide receivers. They drafted another wide receiver, Jack Besh, who kind of showed some spurts at camp. Jacoby Myers is there still. We'll see if anything comes out with him requesting a trade because they can't seem to agree on an extension. I really hope he stays there because I think he would be a really good weapon for Geno Smith. I'm super excited for the Raiders. I'm actually gonna go with the over on that one. I could see them winning, 7 to 8, maybe 9 games. It might be a little rough as they try to kind of figure out who they are in the league. But I'm really excited to see what Pete Carroll does with the Raiders. So, looking at the AFC West, this is how I have it broken down. We got the Denver Broncos winning the division this year, hopefully getting into the AFC Championship. We got the Kansas City Chiefs coming in at number 2, just because they're always relevant. You got Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. It's tough for them to go any lower than the second in this division, even though I really wanted to put the Chargers above them. But I do think that they kind of take a step back and they lose that number 1 spot in the West. Chargers is where I got at number 3, but I would not be shocked if they ended up number 2 or maybe even winning the division. We'll see how this shakes up, but I think they're going to be really exciting. And then the Las Vegas Raiders coming last just because you have to have somebody last. I don't think the Chiefs, as much as I want the Chiefs to be last in the division, I don't think that they're going to make it down that far. But the AFC West, I think, is going to be very, very exciting, just like the NFC North is. Those are the 2 divisions that I'm really, really excited about this year. Just a super-powered teams in both those divisions. So very, very exciting to watch things in the West there. Moving on, we got the AFC South. This is kind of the redheaded stepchild of the AFC, kind of just like the NFC South. Houston Texans took that division last year. They kicked Stephon Diggs out and sent him packing to New England. Tank Dell is unfortunately on the injured reserve. He's probably going to miss the entire season. Joe Mixon is still dealing with that injury. He'll probably start on the PUP. So they brought in Nick Chubb to kind of take over that backfield. He hasn't really shown a lot of promise at camp is what the buzz is right now, but I think he'll be fine. Stroud is probably going to have to pass it more. So if you are a Stroud believer in fantasy, definitely take advantage of getting CJ Stroud. You can get him pretty late in drafts. I think a lot of people are kind of down on the Texans this year. And I know he had a huge slump year last year, but I think he'll bounce back. They signed Jaden Higgins at wide receiver. They brought in Christian Kirk from the Jaguars. They still got Nico Collins there as the number 1 target. They have Dalton Schultz to help out at tight end. The defense is still pretty solid. The offensive line is scary. They lost a lot of important bodies in that offensive line. So that's another part of it why people are kind of scared to take CJ Stroud in fantasy drafts. But I think the Texans are going to be fine. I think Stroud will bounce back. He's got some really good weapons to throw to. They're going to have to figure out the running back room. Hopefully Joe Mixon can come back sooner than later and avoid re-aggravation. That's always a tough thing, is the re-aggravation for running backs. But I think they'll be all right because I'm going to take the over on the Texans. I believe in Stroud. I really, really like Stroud. I like the Christian Kirk signing. Sounds like he's the solidified number 2 target in that offense. Nico Collins, I really, really love. So I'm gonna buy into the Texans this year and go with the over. Second came in the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richards still rostered, but they did sign Daniel Jones, who is now the starter for Week 1. We'll see how many weeks he ends up starting. They signed tight end superstar Tyler Warren, which will be the number 1 target, I think, for this offense. They still got Pittman. They still got Josh Downs. They got Jonathan Taylor leading that backfield, which is very exciting. I think they still have... trying to think of the other wide receivers. Alec Pierce, I believe, is still there. But yeah, I think the Colts are in a tricky spot. I love Tyler Warren. I love Jonathan Taylor. But I'm going to go with the under. Their current win total right now is 7.5. I don't see them getting past that, so I'm going to go with the under. They're probably going to be more of a 5 to 6 win team. I think Daniel Jones will end up getting benched halfway through, and they're going to throw Anthony Richardson out there for one last tryout. If he ends up failing, I think Richardson is not on this roster next year or even becomes a mid-season trade asset. So I'm predicting the Colts to have a pretty nasty year, similar to the Steelers. So coming up next is Jacksonville Jaguars. They drafted Travis Hunter, the stellar wide receiver / cornerback from college. Sounds like he's done a lot of reps on offense, but he is getting mixed in to the defense. I got to imagine that he'll just be the number 2 next to Brian Thomas Jr., and then they might just sprinkle him in on the defense when they need to. Gabe Davis is out. Evan Ingram is out. He is now with the Denver Broncos. They still have Travis Etienne there. They have Tank Bigsby there. They did sign Tootin, the running back, in the NFL draft. One of the big questions is the Travis Hunter thing, but it's also who is the RB1? Is it Etienne or is it Bigsby? I like Etienne. I think he's just in a bad system that just doesn't really know how to use him. I think Bigsby will end up becoming the number 1 running back for this team. But we'll see how this. I'm very excited for the Jaguars because I really like that Travis Hunter draft pick. You know, they got really aggressive in the draft with trading up with Cleveland and to take Travis Hunter. I think this is going to be a kind of last-ditch effort for Trevor Lawrence. If he does not produce this year, I could see him not being on the roster next year, which is unfortunate because I think Trevor Lawrence is a really good quarterback. It's just he's been going through a lot of changes with different coaches, different OCs, and it just the organization isn't the greatest. So I'm going to buy into the Jaguars. I'm going to go with the over. I think if everything works out the way I think it will, they could potentially be a double-digit win team. I'm just really curious to see how involved Travis Hunter is on that defense because he's really determined to be on both sides of the ball, but I think it's very different from college to NFL. I think he's best suited on the offense, and he's going to benefit that team more. So we'll see what they decide to do. They did get Cohen from the Buccaneers to come over to lead as head coach. So we'll see what he has in store for the Travis Hunter rookie prospect. And then rounding out the AFC South, we have the Tennessee Titans, who took Cam Ward as the number 1 pick in this past draft. He is the QB1 with Levis having season-ending surgery. Cam Ward is the dude. They signed Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson in the offseason. They still have Calvin Ridley there to round out the wide receivers. Chikakonkwo there at tight end, who I think is going to be very, very involved. Very similar to what I think of Hawkinson to McCarthy. I think Chikakonkwo is going to be a really good safety net for the rookie Cam Ward. They still have Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard. Spears, of course, is dealing with some injuries, so Pollard will probably see a heavy workload at the beginning of the season. But yeah, I'm excited to see the Titans. I think Cam Ward is a great pick for them. I think he will be successful in this offense once they kind of get their groove going. So I'm going to go with the over. Their current over under is 5.5 wins. But I think they're gonna be more of a 7 to 8 win team. So I'm going to go with the over on that one. Looking at the AFC South, this is how I got it shaking out. I got the Texans winning once again. I think the Jaguars are going to take number 2, followed by the Titans at number 3, and then I think the Colts are going to just plummet hard and take last in this division. And I think Steichen is going to be on the hot seat. He might even be the first mid-season fire as coaches go. So that is the AFC South. Finishing up today's division warfare, we have the AFC East with the Buffalo Bills winning the division. Incoming MVP winner Josh Allen, recently married to Haley Steinfeld this past offseason. They made some moves at wide receiver. They shipped Matt Collins out. I think Collins went to New England, I believe. They still have Khalil Shakir there. They've got Keon Coleman, who was dealing with an injury all last year. So I think they're going to try to get him more involved. I think Shakir is a little banged up, so they might need him. Dalton Kincaid is still there. I think he'll get heavily involved as well. James Cook got his contract extension, so he is ready to go. I think they still got Ray Davis behind him and Ty Johnson, just in case, things get weird. And yeah, the defense is good. They got Joey Bosa adding on there. So I'm going to go with the over. They're at 11.5, just like the Chiefs and the Ravens. I'm going to buy into the Bills. I'm really rooting for either a Denver-Baltimore AFC Championship or a Baltimore-Buffalo AFC Championship, or maybe even a Denver-Buffalo. We'll see. I want those 3 teams to kind of shape the AFC Championship. My ideal AFC Championship would be Denver and Baltimore. I know that's really, really high hoping that Bo Nix gets to the AFC Championship only in his second year. I think realistically, it's going to be Buffalo and Baltimore fighting for that spot in the Super Bowl, which is what we really wanted last year. We wanted either Josh Allen or Lamar to go, but somehow the Chiefs pulled it off and Patrick Mahomes went to another Super Bowl yet again. I do not think Mahomes makes it to the AFC Championship. I think realistically, like I said, it's going to be Buffalo and Baltimore fighting. So very exciting. So I'm going to take the over on the 11.5 wins there. Miami Dolphins were the next up in this division last year. They're sitting at 8.5 wins. Mike McDaniels, the head coach, he's on a hot seat. I think he and Steichen from the Colts are on the hot seat. They could be mid-season fires for sure. Jalen Ramsey out the door. They brought in Minka Fitzpatrick from Pittsburgh to help out that defense. They shipped out Johnny Smith to Pittsburgh, and they woke up Darren Waller from retirement and brought him in there. So we'll see his involvement there. They still got Tyreek. They still got Jalen Waddle. Devon Achane's a little banged up, but I think he'll be fine. This team all hinges on Tua. He's got to stop getting concussions. The dude is one concussion away from retiring in the NFL. Like, seriously, I think this guy is made of paper. He's got a really good arm, and, I mean, left-handed throwers have got to stick together, so I got to support my guy. But this offense, this team, hinges on the health of Tua. They have to keep him healthy. They have to prevent those concussions. Because if anybody else is throwing this ball, this team is going to plummet. So I'm going to go with the under just because I just don't have any faith in them keeping Tua healthy for 17 games. It's going to be tough. So I'm going to go with the under on that 8.5. Next up, we got the Jets coming in. Made a lot of really cool moves. They signed Aaron Glenn as head coach, the former defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. They signed Justin Fields as their QB1. They shipped out Devontae Adams to the Rams. They drafted Mason Taylor at tight end. They still got Garrett Wilson. They still got Breece Hall there, but it sounds like Braylon Allen has been making a name for himself. The biggest question mark right now is who is the wide receiver 2 for this? And I think it's going to be Mason Taylor. I think Mason Taylor will be the number 2 target for Justin Fields. I think Corley is still there. I think Lazard is still there. But I think Mason Taylor, once he gets a little more healthier, more integrated into the NFL, I think he will be the number 2 target for Justin Fields. And Justin Fields, of course, I'm very excited to see what he does with the Jets. He's got that rushing upside. He's got a good arm. I remember watching those Bears games with him when he had that really good stretch of games with DJ Moore. It just really sucks for Garrett Wilson that he doesn't have like a Devontae Adams there to help him out with the coverage. But I'm excited for the Jets. I think Aaron Glenn is a really great choice at head coach. I think he's going to do really good things utilizing the strengths of Justin Fields at quarterback. So I'm going to go with the over of 5.5. I think they're going to be more of the 7-8, maybe squeak into 9 wins. So that is my guess for the Jets. Then the final team to talk about is the New England Patriots. They signed Mike Vrabel as head coach. He is a former Patriot himself. He was with the Titans for a stretch of time, and now he is back coaching with the Patriots, which I think is really awesome. I think Drake May is going to really benefit from Vrabel. They signed Stephon Diggs to help out the wide receivers. They still got Demario Douglas, who's been making a name for himself. I think Keyshawn Boutte is still there. They've got Hunter Henry at tight end still to kind of be a safety blanket for Drake May. They signed Trevion Henderson in the draft, who is a wicked, incredible running back. I don't know if you guys saw that preseason game where he ran like 90-some yards for a touchdown. But they still have Ramondre Stevenson. He's a little banged up like he always is. But he is signed for a couple of years. So that right now he is the running back 1. But I got to imagine Henderson's probably going to take over that spot at some point this year. I'm excited for the Patriots as well. They're sitting at 8.5 wins. I'm going to take the over on them as well. I think this division is going to be shaken up quite a bit. I think the Patriots will start rising and becoming a lot more relevant. Probably not on the Tom Brady level, but they're still going to fight their way with Drake May and Vrabel to become relevant in the NFL. So looking at how I got the AFC East, I've got Buffalo Bills winning the division once again, possibly going into the Super Bowl, followed by the Patriots at number 2, and then the Jets again at number 3, just because Justin Fields is such a wild card. I like that relationship with Vrabel and Drake May more. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets kind of flip it a little bit and take the number 2 spot. I am pretty sure that the Miami Dolphins will take last. I think Mike McDaniels is going to be either a mid-season fire or very, very early off-season fire. It's just really unfortunate that he kind of ends his run with the Dolphins like this, because he's a great coach. He's done great things with that team over the years. It's just, I think this team has ran its course. I think they need to shake things up. I don't think Tua is the answer anymore. He's just too injury prone with the concussions. Tyreek Hill is aging out. He's only got probably a couple years left in the league. Jalen Waddle is a great wide receiver. It's just he doesn't have a consistent, reliable quarterback to throw him the ball. Devon Achane was a superstar last year, but he has been dealing with injuries already early on in his career, so that's a little worrisome. But yeah, the Dolphins, I think, are going to just crash and burn, just like the Colts will in the AFC. So that wraps up today's division warfare with all the AFC breakdowns. I will post my predictions for how each division will break up on social media as well. So that's going to do it for today's podcast. Next episode, I will be doing the Week 1 preview with my predictions for each of those matchups coming in Week 1, which starts on September 4th. We are a little over a week away from football being back, and it's super exciting. So I'll see you all next time on the Endzone Report.